It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Monday, the 23rd day of July 2012. We're going to be live here for the next 3 hours, breaking down all of the amazing developments unfolding worldwide. Yesterday, we posted a Lou Rockwell article that's now in the featured archive of Infowars.com. Or just click on the top stories link at the top of Infowars.com, dealing with the other post-Colorado shooting rampage. And the police had shot a citizen. The neighborhood came out and was saying, you know, angrily, why'd you do this? So the police opened fire on them with rubber bullets that can kill you at close range. And the footage, because I hadn't watched it until this morning, I just saw the article and read it, has police releasing police dogs on women with babies in their arms and baby strollers and walking up and shotgunning. And I've seen this in Portland, Oregon. They had an anti-war demonstration. The police kettled it. It was peaceful and attacked it. And they come over to the baby in a baby carriage. That's like the favorite thing to target, and spray the babies in the face. And the mother's like, why are you doing that? And says, well, you shouldn't bring a baby to a protest. So this is the type of just insanity that we see going on in some areas of this country. Now, in the aftermath of the shooting there in Colorado, we've seen all the surrogates of Obama come out and call for restrictions of the Second Amendment. But now Obama himself is suggesting he's not going to go after your guns. And the Council on Foreign Relations came out with a report yesterday, Kurt and Emma wrote about it, saying, look, this treaty won't restrict your guns, go back to sleep. Kind of like Obama won't sign the NDAA. He won't hire any lobbyist. You know, he won't do this and that, but then he did. That's their standard tactic, is to get people into a false sense of security and then come after your rights. Because they want to get this treaty through because it does sign us under UN law, but they want to just later implement it. It's kind of like Obama said, yeah, I signed the NDAA, but I won't implement it. Maybe. So we've got all that happening. Also, we've got another article posted up at Infowars.com of that video that happened early last week, or the video got released early last week. It happened a few weeks ago, with the people in the internet cafe, and the two guys come in with masks and guns to rob them. And an old man gets up with a .25 cal and starts with precision, knowing what he's doing, shooting them. They turn tail and run, and he chases them out the door. And, of course, that article that you need to circulate to everybody is up at Infowars.com. So please get it out to everybody. In fact, I'm looking for the exact headline. Yeah, it's in featured news down towards the bottom. How to stop a massacre. Surveillance video reveals simple, low-cost solution that works everywhere. And, you know, I don't sit there and make everybody that writes for our websites, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, or even who we post, totally agree with us. There's also articles going with the perspective that he was on a bunch of psychotropic drugs. There's also a bunch of articles about 20 more examples of sickos that are overrunning America, because there are a lot of people into nihilism and death and murder. Even the London Telegraph has written about that it's the video games, the movies. A normal person doesn't make them go crazy. But sickos, this is how they become a man. Just like in all ancient cultures, young men at around 12, 13 wanted to go join and go on raiding parties or go, you know, to war, because that's how you became a man. In fact, I remember when I was 12, 13, 14, you know, I believed all the stories with the other kids claiming they had all these girlfriends, and I believed everybody's stories about how tough they were. And so I wanted to become that. And that's just a normal male activity. But now they say if you're a really cool male, You get all into death and you go and shoot a bunch of people. There's all this weird art now where good-looking women do mean things to animals. Very sick. But my gut tells me this is a black op, and I'm going to break that down coming up. Big broadcast today. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Monday, the 23rd day of July, 2012. We have Chris Emery and Holland, Vandennieuwenhof, both filmmakers and experts on false flag terror, joining us in the third hour today. And the reason they're joining us is they looked at a specific staged terror attack in 1995, run by the very same crew, I believe, from the evidence and the earmarks and the signatures and the wavelength and the PR push. The prime suspects of this new shooting in Colorado are the same people that committed the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995 on April 19th. And by the way, that's open and shut. I've interviewed the police, the workers, the head of HUD. I've interviewed them all, except, well, those they killed. They killed some of the medical people and at least one police officer that saw the ATF and the dirty deeds they were committing. You know, the same ATF that ships guns to Mexico to blame the Second Amendment, and then the memos come out, it was a false flag. You know, 2,000 dead of the almost 60,000 dead now in the last 3.5, 4 years in Mexico. Hundreds dead in the U.S. Those are very conservative numbers. Multiple Border Patrol, multiple police, doing it all to blame the Second Amendment. Oh, but we shouldn't look at this same crew for the shooting here. How do you do it? You hop somebody up on drugs, shock therapy, psychotropics. It only takes a few months to do this with a person that's already has a proclivity towards being suggestible. And you basically chemically hypnotize them with devil's breath, cocktails of PCP, LSD, mescaline. Oh, that's what was in the bodies of the Mumbai massacre people. Remember 3 years ago, the attacks in India? I went on air and said it's an inside job. Oh, by the way, the head of Indian intelligence who was killed that day fighting them said it's Western intelligence trying to get a war between India and Pakistan. He was killed that day. By the way, he was a Hindu, not a Muslim. They want to get India and Pakistan fighting with each other. And then what came out months later in the Chicago Tribune? I covered this yesterday. Oh, that a CIA agent led and trained the attacks. And then when they finally killed the, was it 5 or 6 guys? You notice they weren't in Muslim garb. They didn't have beards. They looked totally crazy. When I saw that surveillance camera footage the day after, I said those people were on LSD, PCP, mescaline, devil's breath concoctions. Because, I mean, I've got MK Ultra. I know what they give people. You know what they found? Injectors of PCP and LSD. Injectors. Commandos land at night on boats on PCP, LSD, and stuff like that. And we're injecting it into their veins. Do you have any idea what that does to a normal person? A normal person who hasn't been on it for a long period of time cannot get up and walk. In the 50s and 60s, they did it for psychological testing, MK Ultra, at every major university, including University of Texas down the street from me. That's declassified, where they would bring in college neuroscience or psychology students, and they would inject them with pure LSD and then try to program them. Convince them they were somebody else, screw them all up. I mean, we're talking about mega dosages of this. And the only way these guys could be injecting LSD, PCP, and other hallucinogens at the Mumbai attack was if they'd been on it for 6 months or longer. Folks, they'd been strapped down with headsets and total programming electroshock probably for a year. And then it was like, okay, ready now. All the pain's going to end. You're going to win. You're going to find the, the purple monkey and, whatever weird programming word they use. Catcher in the Rye was an earlier program. A lot of shooters were under. And they just it creates an artificial, total obsessive compulsive schizoid break. And then they tell them, all right, and remember, you want to keep this going for days. So they inject them as they're coming into the beach. They give them their backpacks. They give them their team leader. Okay, you ready for your mission? And then they go out for 2 days in hand grenading and rocket attack and machine gun attacks inside the shopping malls. And then it came out in the news when they killed them. There's their backpacks with all the injectables. It's the Indian police. They weren't playing ball. They said, we think you staged that. That was in the Times of India. This is how they do it. Folks, they could grab you off the street, even if you were strong mentally, and in 6 months, they could have you doing anything they wanted, including thinking you were a dog, thinking you were John Wayne, thinking you were the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. They can do whatever they want. They erase your memory with electroshock. 24 hours a day, they've got headsets on you with you tied down in a straitjacket, pumping audio in while they're injecting you. If that doesn't break you, they find your fear points. A lot of times that's people running around in monster outfits while you're hallucinating. Or with the Muslims, it's coming in and women having sex with them while pouring blood on them at the CIA brainwashing base, which is declassified partially. They admit it's there. They have a brainwashing laboratory to create mind control Muslim assassins to then blame on Muslims, and also to command al-Qaeda forces. I mean, you notice the graduates of Camp X-Ray, they're the people commanding Libya attack, commanding Syria attack, commanding it all. But see, I'm digressing into mind control here right now. That's how this works. And you notice he was a promising, quote, young scientist in his PhD level. You notice that we did look it up. Indeed, you can go look it up. In fact, I've got to get these articles written. I do all the research, never have time to even codify it. It was a Department of Defense-funded neurosciences laboratory, funded out of Pennsylvania and out of the Air Force Base nearby. And he's in an advanced secretive program. We have videos now, before he even finishes regular college degree, talking about time gaps. And again, it's just so obvious. This whole thing is just completely... Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Look it up. Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber. He was MK-Ultra. I mean, that's admitted that he was MK-Ultra. And it was just a footnote in some of the college students that, quote, volunteered for the program. Captain Webb, are you ready to commit to this program no matter what? Yes, sir. Are you sure you're ready to commit to this program? I warn you, this program is unorthodox and highly classified. Are you ready to commit to this program? Yes, sir, I'm ready to commit to this program. If you are in the military or any other group and they ever want you to volunteer for some kind of program and they tell you it's classified and it deals with drugs to enhance your ability, which they admit they've been doing, but they won't tell you the details, do not do it. Do not do it. Because a lot of times they get you to volunteer and don't tell you, by the way, we're going to set you up as a patsy and send you to death row or send you to a mental institution. You do not want to be part of this. So the point is, this is real. This is going on. This is happening. Every major government does it. Now this could be mind control to the point of he was the shooter. That's harder to pull off. Okay, they could get it to that level. But that's normally it's just somebody whacked out of their mind who is programmed, probably being shown, you know, the Joker scenes 5,000 times while brain probes are in him and he's on a cocktail of hallucinogens, flying a magic carpet. And then now he just thinks he's the Joker and will foam at the mouth for the rest of his life and say, yes, I did it, yes, I did it. They'll get him drugged up, have the army doctors come in. They'll even use the doctors that programmed him. It'll be, oh, a former top mind control scientist is the court-appointed doctor for Mr. Holmes. You know, and it'll be, oh, that's no big deal. No big deal. Nothing to worry about. Oh, never mind, Mr. Gopher. Just, you know, some friends, Mr. Rabbit, No, but this is a plastic explosive. Nothing to worry about. That's a quote from Caddyshack. He's dropping them in there. They'll have... Literally, McVeigh had Jolyon West, the protege of Dr. Ewan Cameron, the worldwide most famous mind control doctor that kidnapped thousands of children, military personnel, you name it, and totally programmed them with the LSD, PCP, electroshock, and all of it. Now they just use brain probes and chips. 20 years ago, they had remote control roaches, remote control rats, where the rat stops, walks, gets up on its hind legs, bites, so you can send them into rubble or whatever. You've seen robo rats. They've got a chip in their brain. You know, they've had them for decades. They send them into rubble and stuff. Special forces have got them now, drop them out, send them into cities. They've got robo-rats built where one of their eyes has been removed and one eye is a camera. Ooh, well, that's highly classified right there. They, for at least 20 years, have cybernetic dolphins with brain interfaces. They can go around with surveillance equipment or plant mines on things. But they're segueing away from biological weapon systems to sea drones, air drones, ground drones, combat mechs of every type, because you're in the 21st century. It's 2012, steaming right into 2013, ladies and gentlemen. The technology we know about is 30 years old at least. You're not in Kansas anymore, ladies and gentlemen. And this brain program was so classified. You know, most of these universities have DARPA funding. What you see, the labs, the stuff that people are being taught, that's just a farming program to see who will do what they're told to assess you for the PhD programs. And then when you get into the I've only seen restricted programs at the University of Texas, and I wasn't even supposed to see that. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's science fiction. You hit one button and you're looking at the monkey farm. And those monkeys have got those wires hooked into their brains, Department of Defense, and they're studying how to flicker that TV screen just right to put you into a trance to then program you. And then they've got other programs where it's above ground, where, oh, they then get the graduate students and psychological volunteers, women to come in and they have a flicker rate. And they do a flicker rate in one lab. How do you sexually arouse a woman? They've got another one. How do you make somebody hungry? You go to another lab, it's a retina scanner that tracks you from 100 yards away that you don't even know is there. Or you go to another lab, it's a molecular scanner. I saw that 12 years ago, University of Texas. And most of this I was allowed to see. Accidentally, some computer screens got left up and some things, and I did see some things. We'll be right back. Here's what's frustrating for me. I have watched the old black and white MK Ultra hearings. They're online. I have read the documents. I have interviewed people who were victims of this, famous people who had family members killed by operatives under mind control. Privately interviewed, not on air. Just going to leave it at that. I have read the police files and the coroner files from Sirhan, who shot RFK, we were told, but the police said he wasn't the same caliber. His gun was held down. It was the security detail with Robert Kennedy. I know this stuff's real. Just like drug gangs in South America and Central America give people tiny dosages of scopolamine out of devil's breath plant, and they can drive a car perfectly, they can do mathematics, they can, you know, they're not impaired except they have no free will. It's basically truth serum. When you're on truth serum, scopolamine, folks, and they've got some other drugs they can mix in with, they're even more advanced, it's not that you just tell the truth, you do whatever you're told. You do whatever you're told. And then the naive public, it's kind of like weather engineering, has been going around, happening for over 100 years, high-tech the last 30. We told you about Stanford Research Institute, all of it. Certifying they could control hurricanes and create them and kill them. Back in 1967, it was already certified. I covered this when it was still classified. And it's so frustrating to then get, you know, see comments going, Alex Jones believes they can control the weather. It's the same thing with mind control. It's the same thing. And I see it over and over again with Major Hassan, with Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber, with James Holmes, the brilliant PhD science student in a classified, restricted program. They always come out of these same programs because this is where they recruit them. This is where they set them up. Again, I'm going to say this. If the government would stage Fast and Furious that's killed thousands conservatively to blame the Second Amendment, if there are thousands of declassified instances of our troops being given chemical, biological, and radiological dosages to kill them in many cases, and the UN's caught shooting kids up with cancer viruses, sterilants, and live pathogens like polio, And in the military for thousands of years, you'll send in a small contingent of cavalry or ground forces to draw out the enemy, knowing that thousands of your troops, in some famous cases, would all be killed, so that you could draw the enemy out to where you wanted them to run a pincer attack against them in many cases. I mean, the military mind is, I'm going to kill 1,000 of my best troops to draw out the enemy so that we don't lose this whole battle and lose 20,000. See, you're not thinking from an elitist perspective. So you're like, how could they go to that theater? How could they have the witnesses say multiple shooters, tear gas canisters or smoke bombs from both sides, from opposite directions? You know, somebody let him in. No, it was somebody else. And then the MO and the UN treaty, the motive coming up, all of this. There are real mass shootings. And when they happen, they get almost no attention. There have been real chemical plants blown up by real terrorists. There are a lot of actually real events where crazy people and criminal groups shaking down companies and espionage. Espionage goes on all the time. Financial sabotage. Real terror attacks you don't hear about. It's the fake ones you do. Because the globalists have a rule, when they're not really doing something, they don't want it to be discussed. They don't want it to be a big deal. You know, there have been cases of whole police stations shot up and 5, 6 cops killed in just the last year and a half. You never hear about it on the news. Minor footnote. Because they don't want real terror attacks being discussed. But when they've got a big, see, again, and the frustration is there's thousands of points here, literally. I want to get your take on this. If you agree with me, if you disagree, I'm not saying that it was a staged event. I'm saying my gut says that and all the evidence points in that direction. I'm not saying you're bad if you think he was just on psychotropic drugs, which is a form of mind control itself. You take hallucinogenic drugs like he was taking over the counter. I mean, not over the counter, but prescription, which are over the counter, but not over the counter in the classic sense. You take those. It puts you into a suggestive state. You play video games, watch violent movies. A certain percentage of people are going to go cuckoo. Like Sergeant Bales over in Afghanistan. He was on a bunch of those drugs. Oh, here, let's put you on a psychotropic that can make you go psychotic and then send you. Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea. So, I mean, we've got articles up, people saying that's what they think at Infowars.com. That's fine. As for me, this has all the earmarks of a very sophisticated black op. We saw a lot of acts of heroism by men protecting their girlfriends. We saw a 13-year-old step in front of a bullet for a smaller child. We also have a video up at Infowars.com, how to stop a massacre. Surveillance video reveals simple, low-cost solution that works everywhere. You must send this Mike Adams story out to everybody. In fact, I'm going to Twitter that out on our official Twitter during the next break when I get a chance to at twitter.com/RealAlexJones. We also are going to play the footage and analyze it here for radio listeners of Anaheim police go on a rampage against citizens. I saw the article yesterday by Lou Rockwell at Infowars.com. And I didn't even watch the video until this morning. And when you see police purposefully with rubber bullets up close, shotgunning women, when they know it'll kill you. Kills a lot of people. They've killed people, you know, at that Red Sox game when they came out of the bar, shot the woman in the face. And they're shooting people with babies in their arms and coming up to baby carriages and shooting at them. And it's really bizarre. I've seen this a lot, like in Pittsburgh, the G20, when a woman... Two older women come out of a store with shopping bags because they would just randomly show up in Pittsburgh and say, you're not allowed to be out during the daytime here, just to crack some heads. It was all a big drill to see what they could get cops to do. And cops in Darth Vader outfits, these clown outfits, where I guess they hide who they are so they can act like the, you know, cowards, I guess they are, release police dogs on old women and they're biting them and the cops are getting off on it. I mean, I just can't imagine wanting to go find some old women with shopping bags and release a police dog on them. And then I'm not patriotic because I'm not into that. I guess I'm not patriotic to the devil. I mean, I don't know what you say. But the post-Aurora rampage that nobody's heard about, or the post-Aurora rampage that few have heard about, Infowars.com from William Gregg, originally LouRockwell.com. The video is up there right now. That is now in the featured news archive, or just click top stories and it's in there. Now, my head is spinning basically at this point. I've got so much news I want to go over. But I also want to get you on air. I want to hear from listeners out there. We're going to do first-time callers today to get your take on any of the stuff in the news. I mean, just take the fact that we had a whistleblower on a month and a half ago, and now everything he talked about has been confirmed. TV producer over in England, we get him on. He'd been working for a month for the big security firm. He said they're not even doing basic checks, and that they said at the end of the Olympics, after they're over, there'll be an event that changes our world forever. And that the military was secretly being stationed in and around that area where they're having the Olympics over in England. Now it's admitted there's no security. That's all over the British news. It's admitted the military was secretly stationed. And it's admitted that there's basically no security. And now Israel says Iran is planning to attack the Olympics. Iran is doing everything it can to not get attacked. I'm not saying Iran's perfect. All these governments are corrupt. The point is jumping through all the hoops, putting up with Western-backed commandos attacking their country. That's on record. Destabilization actions. So they're now going to attack the Olympics via Hezbollah so that they control, which they do to a great extent, so that they will get attacked and overthrown. I mean, that is just, that'd be like saying, I don't follow it enough, but who's like the top heavyweight fighter in UFC right now? I have no idea. But I mean, let's just say Mike Tyson in his prime in 1988. It'd be like saying, I'm going to go pick a fight with Mike Tyson right now. Yes, Israel says Iran is going to attack the Olympics. I mean, that is huge because all the different sources we've got say they are planning something big at the Olympics. It may not happen now because we're talking about it, but listen, in the 1972 Olympics in Munich, they have one day in September. I don't know if it's on the new DVD. I saw it in theaters in the late 90s when it came out, narrated. I saw it, Randy Couture. Is that his name? It's like saying, I'm going to go out and start a fight with Randy, Couture or something like that. I mean, that's how crazy this is, them saying Iran is now going to do this. But getting back to one day in September. But guys, I want to buy that. I mean, I keep saying buy it. Will you have one of the crew buy One Day in September, the DVD or whatever? But the point is, or off Netflix or whatever, I just want to play the clip at the end. But my point is, I don't know if they've still got it on the DVD, but I know it won an Academy Award. I saw it at the Arbor Movie Theater in Austin, Texas, the old Arbor, when it was still inside the mall in North Austin. I don't know why those details matter. I saw it in the late 90s. I think it came out like in 99. And at the end of the movie, they go ahead and say, oh, yeah, German intelligence actually staged the hijackings with the terrorist. And there was actually a group in intelligence who was working with the group above the people that launched the attack in Munich. And, they have an hour-and-a-half documentary about the terrorists and all the rest of it. And then at the end of the movie, the former head of German intelligence laughs and says they basically staged a bunch of it. I mean, talk about throwing it in our face. And again, a lot of times they'll go out and hire a terrorist group that goes out and recruits real Muslim terrorists. That was the case here. But then security stands down to let them come in and do it. That's my point. I'm not saying there aren't some wild-eyed Muslim extremists and crazies from every group out there. The point is the Western governments, since the end of World War II and even before with the British, have been funding the radical Muslims and using them to overthrow countries. This new thing NATO's doing, helping overthrow Egypt and putting in Al-Qaeda and Muslim Brotherhood, this overthrowing Gaddafi, who'd made deals with the West and putting Al-Qaeda in charge, this having Al-Qaeda backed by U.S., British, and other special forces are now in Damascus, attacking the presidential parliament and other facilities. I mean, this is a real war. There's a giant guerrilla war with Al-Qaeda jihadis in al-Qaeda uniforms, black uniforms with the flag of al-Qaeda, with the patch of al-Qaeda. It's on the news, and it's, yeah, we got to get Assad. We'll work with whoever we have to. That isn't something new. That's incredibly old. The British, I mean, Lawrence of Arabia is a true movie. Lawrence of Arabia is a true story. It's a true story. But they have it as if he's a hero going and unifying what was the desert into Saudi Arabia. And, you know, he goes and makes a deal with the Bedouins and gets weapons to them to go overthrow the other groups. That's really what happened. That's the group that funds al-Qaeda. That's the Wahhabist. They put them in charge. From people living in big tents out in the desert to giant sex palaces. And then 15 of the patsy hijackers who were intelligence operatives, it came out they worked for the Saudi government, trained at U.S. military bases. That all came out. The heads of the bases would come out and say, these guys were trained in my classes, including Muhammad Atta. Then you see the headline, head of Defense Language School, colonel being court-martialed for releasing classified information. I mean, again, we don't know exactly what happened on 9/11. You know, some say, oh, it was a triple cross. You know, we thought it was drills for hijacking, but they use it as a real hijacking. You know, in this movie theater, you got a person or persons with a bunch of high-caliber, you know, semi-auto guns shooting people, and guys tried to stop them and jumped on them and stuff. But we're to believe people with box cutters. Let me tell you something. If I was on an airplane, people say, well, that's today. No, no, no. I was on an airplane, and 4 guys got up with box cutters and said, do what we say. I mean, I'm not the toughest guy around. But let me tell you something. I live for stuff like this. Okay? I mean, I don't like it, but once the door opens, once someone is violent in my face, I mean, I turn into an absolute vicious goblin-like creature. And most men I know, especially when you become an adult, that's why adults don't get in a lot of fights, because it's not like you're a teenager anymore, and people go to the hospital. People end up dying when adults get in fights. I mean, can you imagine a plane full of a bunch of defense contractors, former and current military, and guys who all weighed about 180 pounds, 160 pounds, some of them 140 pounds, pull out box cutters? I mean, let me tell you something. You're about to get hurt real bad. I can't even get physically excited until there's a threat. I know most men are that way. I mean, the minute somebody pulls, by the way, that's happened to me repeatedly. I grew up in Dallas. I've had people pull knives on me. I've taken them away from them. I've used their head like a basketball on the ground. But the point is, and then gone to jail, even though until later, the fact came out that I was attacked. Side issue. All of you know the truth. Here's the toll-free number, 800-259-9231. Guys, will you launch the phone system for me? Thank you. 800-259-9231 is the toll-free number to join us on air today. I'm just going to take calls for 20, 30, 40 minutes and just try to regroup here, because I've got a whole bunch of video clips and audio clips I want to play. I've got whole stacks of research and documents. If you're a radio listener, if you were watching on prisonplanet.tv, no exaggeration, I would guess there are 300-plus articles and documents in here in front of me, and I have looked and read almost all of them just in the last 2 days, and I want to cover it all. It is all off the charts crazy. 800-259-9231. And it makes my head spin. I just had the article. Here it is. This was ABC News and RT. We reported on this over a year ago because independent journalists and others went into the area at their own risk. We first saw that they weren't reporting any radiation in and around Fukushima, but in other areas they were. And it turns out the radiation is many times what they said it was, and 8 times what they said it was hitting the West Coast. And it turned out, of course, giant tuna caught last year, just 3 months after the event, had high levels of radiation. And milk and food all over the U.S. has been found with it. That's actually been in the news, but back of the paper. Fukushima contractor forced workers to fake radiation readings and to say that there was low radiation when it was actually high. That's RT, a company charged with decontaminating the devastated Fukushima nuclear power plant, encouraged its workers to falsely lower their radiation dosimeter readings by covering the devices with lead, according to a leaked tape of an internal meeting. This is all over the Japanese news right now. We first posted it a couple days ago. There were commenters on Infowars.com and normal people saying we'd made it up and it wasn't real. And again, that's a psych warfare tactic. We've tracked a lot of their IP addresses, the Department of Defense. They have to at least just say it isn't true up front, because then the mind mitigates that and somehow creates denial even though you know it's true. And so that's all. I mean, all right, I'm going to go to your phone calls here because, again, I'm just completely overwhelmed with news. Suspect arrested in L.A. homeless stabbings. You know what the answer is to that, of course, ban knives, because someone used it to kill people. And, of course, Piers Morgan, Felipe Calderon, Bloomberg, ABC News, the usual suspects, Michael Moore. They're all running around saying right now that we have got to restrict our guns because of what this supposed person did. And everybody's just officially buying the story in the media that they say it's him, that's it, he's the gunman, he's in a jail cell flopping around screaming he's the Joker. I mean, they could commit a mass shooting and give me a drug that totally fries my brain where I'm flopping around and then just say I did it. I mean, this is the oldest trick in the book, and they describe in Operation Northwoods how to frame patsies for mass shootings at, you guessed it, what they do in Operation Gladio, movie theaters, bus stations, things like that. And now they're calling for the TSA in the bus stations and all the rest of it. We told you that was coming. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to come back, take calls for 30, 40 minutes. Then I'm going to try to do a focused news blitz on world news and more. And when our two guests join us that are experts on false flag terror, and specifically the Oklahoma City inside job event, we're going to tie it into this event because the prime suspects, if it's a false flag, is the very Justice Department caught running the false flag of Fast and Furious to blame the Second Amendment. It's the very same crew, and I had on researcher and former Marine grabbing the DVD here from A Noble Lie, Holland, Vandennieuwenhof, and Chris Emery. I had them on just a few months ago, so I would suggest they go get the last interviews where we said false flag alert. And I remember discussing with them what type of false flags we expected, and we said shopping malls, grocery stores, movie theaters. I remember that. If it wasn't the last interview, it was the one before that. Because we were all very concerned that they were about to pull one with the UN treaty and the rest of it. So they're experts, probably even more so than I am on Oklahoma City because they focus on it full time. I mean, I've forgotten so much about it. There's so much proof. It's like an ocean of it. They're going to be joining us. That's why we kept saying in articles and on the air, this film is important because they're getting ready to stage mass shootings to blame it on the Second Amendment and the Patriot movement. In fact, we said in the last 3 or 4 interviews that that's why they put the film out now, was because the very same crew that carried this out is now in the White House. The people that run Obama ran this. They even put out, remember Glenn Beck going on air and saying they're going to stage a new Oklahoma City and blame it on me? He pointed at himself because in the fundraising memos, they mentioned Glenn Beck. Well, on Media Matters, they say Alex Jones, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Matt Drudge, people like that. I mean, they think we're so dumb. They say, without a new Oklahoma City or 9/11, Obama will never get reelected. Oh, my gosh, I just remembered that. We haven't even had an article about, was this the false flag that we kept warning about? I mean, they say they're going to have a false flag. Even Glenn Beck has to, even Michael Savage comes out and says they may stage one. And then they have the classic lone nut, A Noble Lie, available at InfoWarsShop.com. But again, I just start ranting about how they have a history of false flags instead of even pointing out that this is exactly what we predicted they would do. Wow, that just made my head spin right there. That just made my head spin right there. That's another problem. I'm so busy with management, personnel, hiring people that it's really got me off balance running this whole place, trying to stay focused on the news and information. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen. I've got to get back focused on the info because I can't just get up here and say I think it's an inside job. I've got to give you all the reasons it's an inside job. I'd be crazy if I didn't look at this as an inside job. You need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that we have a criminal government in place who's been caught staging false flags over and over again. And we would be insane if we did not investigate government for this. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks last night that we had Holland, Vandennieuwenhof, and Chris Emery on, and others, in the last 4 months saying we all believed terror attacks were coming. And that from the pre-propaganda we were seeing, that I believed it was going to be mass shootings of shopping malls, grocery stores, and movie theaters to bring in the TSA. And I know I said that over and over and over again. So radio listeners, if you can dig that out of my last interviews with them, I don't have the crew to do it. We will then play it on air. And again, it's not about, oh, we're right, we told you so. The White House and Obama's advisors have said in the Financial Times of London, in their internal fundraising memos to mega donors, that don't worry, there's going to be a new Oklahoma City or 9/11, and we're going to blame it on people. They don't say we're going to do it. They just say, don't worry, there's going to be one. Don't worry, the restaurant's going to burn down, and we're going to get the insurance money. Imagine if the owner of a restaurant said, we're bankrupt, but don't worry, everybody that's worked here for years, there's going to be a fire next week, and so we're going to build a new restaurant with that money. Then if the restaurant burnt down the next week, the fire marshals would be there saying, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. They'd have the arson dogs in there, finding where they dumped the gasoline. But no. All these White House advisors, Robert Shapiro, the big lawyer, all of them say, barring an Oklahoma City or a 9/11, so the president can rally people and be a hero, he's not going to get reelected. And now he's getting his bump in the polls. Just watch. And he's out there grandstanding in Colorado, having his surrogates call to restrict our guns. And he's like, I don't know if I'm going to call for that. But, my UN treaty doesn't restrict your guns. They have the CFR out saying that, and Obama today. Oh, but guess what? Different TV channels, I've got that in my stack. Different TV channels, guess what they're doing? NBC's Gregory blames Batman Massacre on angry political dialogue, says Rush Limbaugh to blame for shootings. We wrote an article Friday morning saying how long until they blame somebody like Alex Jones or Rush Limbaugh. There you go. Rush Limbaugh, it's your fault. Poor old Rush hardly even talks about the Second Amendment. Rush Limbaugh is like milquetoast, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Rush, see, people say, good, we hate Rush Limbaugh. So many even conservative libertarian hosts I know behind the scenes are jealous. And listen, folks, if they can destroy Rush Limbaugh, let me give you a little news flash. They take down the biggest person first. And I know you see him as establishment. Let me tell you, the Obamanoids don't. They blamed Oklahoma City on him. And see, I just called Watson during the break, and I'm going to come back and go to your calls, I promise. He's going to write another article right now because I'm like, whoa, Paul, we've got the memos, we've got the statements that they wanted a new Oklahoma City to blame on us. We've got Glenn Beck saying they're getting ready to stage something. We've got Michael Savage. Put all that up there with our clips saying it and all the articles where we warned about it. Basically, you'd be crazy to not look at Obama's people because they did Fast and Furious. Look, you go after who's been caught doing stuff like this before. I mean, the current Attorney General in 1995 was up to his eyeballs in Oklahoma City, folks. Okay? That's why they're the suspects. Ladies and gentlemen, the FBI had warnings about shootings in theaters in Colorado the month before. They pulled that off their site, their little flyer. Eerie coincidence, Colorado University had identical drill on same day as Batman Massacre. Exercise revolved around gunmen attacking theater with a smoke bomb. Just like 9/11, the exact same targets, exact same time. so that NORAD would stand down, just like 7/7, exact same targets, exact same drill, exact same time. Wow. The nightly news tonight, we've got to pull up all of those other drill articles and videos where they admit it. Let's go to your phone calls. Again, just total information overload right now at Infowars.com. We'll blitz through it all coming up after some calls. But don't worry, they say let the UN take over our guns now that this happened right on time. James in Arizona, you're on the air. What do you make of all this?
How's it going, Alex?
Good.
Well, basically, just 1 second here. Basically, back when I was in the Marine Corps, we went to boot camp, and a lot of people who deny the fact that you can be brainwashed, all you have to do is look at Marine Corps boot camp recruits, and you don't need drugs. All you need is, 13 weeks in a, boot camp, and you can brainwash people. So it's very possible to get somebody, even on a low level, to do what they're told very quickly. So it's not impossible at all. And I've warned a lot of my friends about this event, and a lot of them were kind of picking up on it and texting me and saying, yeah, this is all lining up to be exactly what you said. So
yeah, I'd say about 90, and the votes show that on YouTube as well, about 95% of people agree. The 5% or so that say I'm out of line, say, oh, is it always government? Yeah, like I said, the India attack a few years ago at Mumbai was government. It turned out the CIA ran it. I told people months before they were putting al-Qaeda in Libya because we had reporters on the ground. Was confirmed. Listen, folks, it's scary to go up against these people. It's not fun, but I am forced to respond to this. I am forced to cover this. And look, when you got all the White House advisors saying, gee, in Oklahoma City would sure pull our bacon out of the fire, and then you have it happen, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, like I said, I warned a bunch of people that they were going to get some crackpot to do something like that. And it's not hard. It's always the same MO. It's some guy that nobody knew, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, he goes on a shooting spree. So it's not hard to get somebody in there, slip them some drugs, do it over for a few weeks, get him to talk him into doing something stupid and brainwash him into thinking something he's not. But real quick, Alex, I've tried to get in over the last weeks. I wanted to throw out a few points. One other thing is what I always been warning my friends of what's called a positive effect false flag, where they'll actually make an event, they'll save people from something bad so they can pose as the heroes as well. No,
that's where they go out and find mental patients and get them to build a bomb and then bust them before. That's a much more humane way to steal all our rights.
Yes, and so I wanted to throw that out there. Always look at the gas prices when they go down and stuff. That's all false flag. Just keep that in mind. One other thing is, I want to tell everybody, to your audience, is that all these drones and all this stuff, and people say our Second Amendment's outdated. Well, all you have to do is go to Radio Shack, learn electronics, and all these drones and all this stuff can be hacked. I tell your audience.
Listen, they're only getting all the drones to intimidate you and make you feel like they've got overwhelming force, and so they can sit back cowardly and send them out to attack you. You just don't face the enemy at the time of their choosing. If we go into some type of hot war with these people, I'd rather just engage in a hot info war. Then you don't face them at their time of their choosing. That's just children and childlike minds that say, oh, we're nothing compared to a modern military. If modern militaries don't have the moral authority, they can't win a war. This whole thing couldn't even occupy Baghdad, folks. Okay? It's all bark and no bite. All the troops have been soft-killed. Ladies and gentlemen, Israel says that Iran is planning to attack the Olympics in London, England, coming up here in just a few weeks. And so they've got to attack Iran. Wow, if that happens, get ready for oil prices to at least double. And we had a guest on, a TV producer, who infiltrated just a few months ago and found that there's no real security and that they were saying an event is going to happen at the end of the Olympics so big it's going to change our world forever. And everything that guy told us on air is now being confirmed. Hopefully talking about this will stop something like that from breaking down. Also, we've got incredible articles up at Infowars.com. Colorado University held identical drill on same day as Batman Massacre. Well, that's the coup de grace. That's the cherry on top right there. And later, after I take calls, I'm going to go over the evidence of this being a staged event where they use a drugged-up, mentally ill patsy to take the fall. Of course, that's just if you believe the memorandum for the Secretary of Defense, unclassified justification for U.S. military intervention, known as Operation Northwoods. That tells you how to shoot up the movie theaters. And even how to frame the patsies. Isn't that just special? And then there's the Lavon affair and all the others. There's Operation Gladio. That was shooting up movie theaters. Shooting up movie theaters. Why do they like that? Because you can frame your patsy, have your guys in black mask, multiple quote what they thought were cops, get away, and then you find the drugged up patsy who's on devil's breath and has had shock therapy. But he'd have to be in some government program where they could, a brain interface neurology advanced program funded by the Department of Defense, just like Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Oh, just like Major Hassan. Oh. And then the very university was running a drill of the exact same thing happening. Why do they do these drills? So that there's NSA chatter of a drill so that good people in the NSA and other systems that hear it in live time don't respond, because most of the agencies aren't involved. Very small compartmentalized parts are. That's why on 9/11, exact targets, exact times, hit by hijacked jets, CIA and Department of Defense drills, AP, Reuters, New York Times, look it up. It's in all my 9/11 films. 7/7, Peter Powers, Visor Consultancy, ITN and BBC. It's in my film Terror Storm. Just look it up. We're going to play on the Nightly News tonight. Do a whole report on this, how they do drills. Exact targets at exact time at exact locations. 3 trains and a bus. One group didn't blow up the train like they were supposed to, ran, were all shot in front of everybody at Canary Wharf. They thought they were taking part of the drill. The head of it was Mr. Aswat 7/7, known MI6. Source on that, Fox News, Associated Press, Scott Television, BBC. Showed you those articles yesterday on the radio. For PrisonPlanet.tv viewers, we actually showed them. But for radio listeners, we gave you the headlines. But again, I'm supposed to just ignore all this. Oh, exact drill of movie theater attacked. And it's a tabletop. But again, you do the tabletop, so there's the planning, the chatter. You've got to have that. So if you get caught, like FSB got caught in '99 blowing up a 4th building to blame it on Chechens so Putin could get elected. 4th building getting bombed. Actually, the suburb of Moscow, the cops caught him. Because cops had family living in the building, so they were staked out, and they caught him. They caught the FSB planting hexogen, U.S. and Russia use hexogen, on the pillars in the basement of the apartment building. And the feds in Russia swooped in and grabbed the tapes and grabbed their guys and said, national security, we were running a drill of blowing up the building. And the police kept part of the explosives back that the government didn't grab and came out a few days later and said, no, it was real. They were really going to do it. Of course, you know what happened to those police officers. Same thing that happened to Terrence Yakey from Oklahoma City. Cop of the year, because he saved dozens of people. It was like a NFL linebacker type, big black guy. Went in, saved all the people, putting them on his back, carrying him out like, right out of Hollywood. And he saw the feds and what they were doing, and, well, you know what they did to him. They tortured him real good. He told his wife and family, they're following me, they're going to kill me. He told them that night, they're coming to kill me. I've got to go to the storage locker outside town and meet my partner and give him the material. They're coming to kill me. And then he called his partner and he said, the feds are behind me. And, of course, they took real good care of him. And then I've interviewed the police officers who were there and had the government come into their offices and say, oh, you're the head of the K-9 unit, Sergeant Browning. You and your wife are going to be dead if you don't drop this. Is that understood? Oh, the very same Justice Department, the very same man now in charge, and that all these Democratic memos said mass murders, mass shootings, and bombings to be blamed on us. We should just ignore those memos. In fact, I've been on air 3 times now, Friday, Sunday, and now today, and didn't even hit me why I knew in my gut this was an inside job. It wasn't my gut. It wasn't the witnesses saying they saw multiple shooters or heard multiple shooters or saw smoke bombs from both sides or somebody let him in. It wasn't all that. It wasn't that the UN treaty's coming up next week. It wasn't the timing. It wasn't that it was right down the street from Columbine in this military-industrial complex center. It wasn't that he was in a high-tech brain sciences, brainwashing-type Department of Defense-funded program. It wasn't that his very area of study dealt with this type of stuff, erasing memories of troops. This is a Department of Defense-funded program he was in. You've seen the articles. Soon they'll erase bad memories of the troops. Yeah, that's called mind control. See, I just have all this data, and it just slams me. Bam! And I don't even realize why I'm saying it's an inside job until I start sitting back, and it's just an ocean of evidence. Is there a chance he was a lone nut on a bunch of psychotropics, they now admit? Well, he's definitely on the drugs, so we didn't know who he is. Do people naturally get on these, and a cop walks in Walmart and a nut shoots him for no reason? Yeah. That happened in Austin. But this thing's got gun grab written all over it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to shut up and go to your calls. It just makes my head spin. Of course we've got to question a group known for staging false flags, including Fast and Furious. They're caught on Fast and Furious, doing it to blame the Second Amendment. It killed thousands. State Department with Mexico, the Justice Department estimates 2,000 plus in Mexico, over 200 here. And that's where they traced the guns directly to the dead bodies. Last number I saw was 3 dead cops, 3 dead Border Patrol, 2 of the cops proven, 1 of the Border Patrol proven. Proven. Killed by guns. So that's a false flag that killed people. Killed. K-I double hockey stick. K-I double hockey stick. K-I double hockey stick. Dead, 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 dead. Dead as a doornail. And they think you're so stupid. They write articles in the Financial Times of London about how a big terror attack would sure be great. They think you're so dumb. Gary Hart for the CFR writes a public letter to Ahmadinejad saying, we'll stage terror attacks to blame it on you. Don't think we won't invade you. Do as you're told. Look it up. Look up Gary Hart's letter to Ahmadinejad. He published it in the Huffington Post. We interviewed him about it for Truth Rising. I wish. You think it's fun going up against these people? Walking the razor's edge? They're like, oh, we'll just say he's a kook, and plus it'll make him a martyr if we kill him. Oh, but boss, it'd sure be good to kill Alex Jones. Or maybe one of the people goes rogue. You think this is a fun job, ladies and gentlemen? You think I like saying it's these people? You think I like having cops on who name names of FBI that have come in their offices and threatened to kill them? You think that's fun? If they'll kill cops, they'll kill anybody. You think I like this? You think I just say this because it's fun? No, I live it. I live this. I know what I'm talking about. Okay, that's it. We're going to go to Jim, then Jeff, then Anthony, then Matt. Go ahead, Jim. Thanks for holding from North Carolina. You're on the air. You think I'm wrong to think Obama might be involved in this?
I don't know about Obama being a part of it or in it, but I'll tell you're dead on about this devil's breath. I've heard it referred to as dragon's breath. Now, where I live at, they beta test a lot of this stuff, especially these snatch and grabs that you see the little, the black kid communities doing. Where I live, it's 99% black, and they just they'd go into Walmart and steal all the electronics. This was like 10 years ago, and they'll have Walmart security, tape them, and then they'll arrest them. But every single one of them kids because I stay in and out of the prison system. This is a prison planet. You go to jail for anything and everything around here. This is the home of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Nate Turner back in the Civil War days. But what they do is they take you get arrested, they take you down to the police station, and they do drugged interrogations. Why this is important is if you belong to any religious denomination that is classified as a cult, Now, a cult is somebody who uses drugs as a part of their ceremony.
Now, I understand, like the Hopi Indians with mescaline, with peyote. You're telling me that the police are giving people truth serum at the police department?
I don't think that is true serum, because I grew up in the occult, the Mormon faith, and they use these drugs as a part of their sacrament, and you feel like you're, like you have the Spirit of God in you. You have a warm, comforting feeling. Religious people will tell you, when
Wait a minute, you're saying now the Mormons are giving people drugs? I thought it's the opposite. Very interesting, sir. We're going to move along. Thank you for those points. We're going to talk to Matt, Jeff, and many others straight ahead. Big news blitz coming up, and a key report about to get posted at Infowars.com as well. We've got the photo up at Infowars.com, but if you go to Drudge, it's headline, Joker turns zombie. And if you click on it, his head is rolling to side, his eyes are wide open, he's basically can't even talk now, and that's exactly what we would expect in a staged event. Again, totally whacked out of his mind. Everybody's just saying, oh, he'll burn for this one. Yeah, the government says he did it. Yeah, they'd ship guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment and set people up, but they'd never, have criminals go into a movie theater and shoot a bunch of people. And the Mexican president says we should be made to turn our guns in now. Now, we should believe whatever he says. This is a country where tens of thousands get killed every year and the police are totally corrupt. Eyes rolling, head swaying, and that bright red hair. Colorado killer faces victims. He's the Colorado killer now. Smiles in bizarre first appearance. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Total and complete proof. Oh, and look, he's got the nice lawyer there helping him. I wonder if he'll, she's attractive. I wonder if he'll get appointed a famous mind control doctor and then no one will even think of it. I think it's a big deal like McVeigh had. Because, there's no such thing as mind control, even though it's all declassified. Let's talk to Anthony in Pennsylvania. Anthony, what do you think about all this?
Alex, Anthony Antonello, thanks for taking my call. This is absolutely incredible. We've been talking about this for years. We said all it's going to take, is one major event, whether it be a mall, a library, movie theater, anywhere. We already see the TSA rolling into Union Station in Chicago. We see these people, it's a complete takeover. It is so obvious, and, I've been doing as much work as I can. Here's the thing, is and you know this, you control the message, you control the people. And one of the things that I really focus on is calling local radio stations. Well, I've been hammering on the NDAA and, things of that nature. I just confronted Congressman Lou Barletta a couple days ago.
By the way, it's totally blowing people away right now that the NSA has been forced to admit they are spying on everyone in real time, totally illegally. What do you make of them running a drill of the exact same thing happening? Now, in the case of 7-7, it was even the same buses and same location, same time. This was just running a drill that day of the movie theater being attacked in the area and the guy using a bomb as a diversion while he shot people. Again, every time they're running drills. On 9/11, they were running drills of the same thing. How obvious does this have to get?
I called Nancy Lapham. She's the one who wrote that article in the Denver Post. I called her a couple hours ago. I asked her if it was okay for me to record the conversation, and she told me that her inbox is flooded with emails of people talking about conspiracies and that, it happened afterwards, and this was planned months ahead. She said something about they got their idea from Israel. But she's like, yeah.
Hey, listen to this. Listen to this. I watched some of the press conferences, and that police chief who never talked about the victims but talked about what a great job the police had done all day, but he would just go on and just keep repeating it. He said, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Yeah, no kidding. But he was talking about, quote, conspiracy theories. Did you see that where he's like day one on Friday night, he's up there saying, don't believe what you read on the internet. What, like all the witnesses saying 2 shooters? You mean like that?
Right. It doesn't surprise me at all. And here's the thing, like where I'm at in northeastern Pennsylvania, our local radio stations, we have a host who believes well, I don't know if he really believes it or not, but he supports every single official story from JFK to now. And, I've organized call-in bombs and, I organized a couple hundred people to call in and talk about this. And he just spins it to the point where, like I said, now I can't even call their shows.
Well, that's all right. Just keep it up. Call into All the Talk Radio and plug in Infowars.com while you're at it. We're going to go to break. Long segment coming up. I'm going right back to your calls when we return. Then I've got Darren McBreen's news piece, ATF boss threatens whistleblowers. This came out last week, but Darren breaks it down really well. Imagine putting out an internal video threatening people not to report on crimes inside ATF. But hey, Joe Paterno's statue was taken down. Last year, I told you Paterno knew what was going on. And people sent me emails saying, how dare you say Popo or whatever his name was. What was his stupid nickname? They said, how dare you say Poo-Poo or Poppy Poop or whatever it was would do this. Hey, if I know that governments have staged terror attacks over and over again, and they've got the motive, and then I say, hey, we better look into the system being involved in this. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last 5 months, I have been selling A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City, 1995, and begging people, I'm in it, to buy it. In the film, I warned that Obama is probably going to stage domestic terror attacks to blame the Second Amendment. It's got Jane Graham that saw the feds planting the bombs in the building. It's got the inventor of the neutron bomb. It's got General Parton, the head of Air Force Weapons Development, the late Hoppy Heidelberg, the grand juror that was threatened. His life was threatened if he didn't stop wanting to know about the feds and the bombs. They interviewed the family members of the cop that was tortured and murdered. I mean, it's the only professional film. Look, I made Road to Tyranny 10 years ago, and it's got the newscast with the bombs being removed, and it's got some of the eyewitnesses, but it's 40 minutes of a 3-hour film. In the past, I put out like 3-hour films. And it's a professional film. But I made it with myself and my wife and Buckley Hammond. And Mike Hansen doing some of the camera work. 4 people worked on it. And that was while I was doing a radio show. That was, 10 years ago. We were still a tiny operation. A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City, 1995. Looks like Discovery History Channel. That's because some of the guys that worked on it worked for Discovery and History. And they would hear all this over the years, interviewing the eyewitnesses and survivors. They all say, basically all of them say it's an inside job. And then they would be ordered to edit all that out for ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, Fox. And so that was how this film got made. Plus, all these years they're like, wow, we want to make a film about the truth. So that's why it looks so good, is that it had a lot of big TV professionals involved in it. A Noble Lie, the only film exposing this false flag event in a professional and modern way, where all the facts are in. I first made my film about it just 5-6 years after it happened. The point is this is 16 years after it happened, 17 years after it happened. We have A Noble Lie available at InfoWarsShop.com, and these support True Media and the whole crew we've got here and the filmmakers of this documentary. They're going to be joining us because, what did we say? Get this out before they stage new terror attacks. And we say, what kind could they be? New federal buildings, mass shootings, shopping malls, grocery stores, movie theaters. I know I said it, and our guests said it over and over again. And then a month ago, the FBI flyer came out to law enforcement. We got a copy. We covered it on air, and they said, movie theaters will be attacked. And I said, that means they'll attack movie theaters. The FBI pulled that flyer. We have the flyer saved. We have it up at Infowars.com. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that's why this film needs to be shown to everybody. A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City, 1995. The very attorney general was the deputy attorney general, and we have his emails that came out in the lawsuits. They had email back then, folks, at the federal government in 95. And the point is they were using it. And he said, this is a D-Day situation. We got to get down there and get on top of this and cover this up right now. And boy, did they. Yeah, cover what up? The fact that all the bombs didn't go off? Didn't matter they had Controlled Demolition Incorporated come in, the same folks that got rid of the wreckage on 9/11. They came in, blew it up, took out the wreckage, and poured concrete in with it, and had Wackenhut guards guarding it last time I checked. A landfill with guards guarding it with the pieces mixed in with concrete in a 30-foot hole. Man, you didn't want that getting looked at, did you? Even if archaeologists wanted to get into there, they're going to have trouble. Don't want folks looking into that, do you? Okay, we have the total proof that it was an inside job. Infowarshop.com, get it. Guys, do we have the 4-minute McBrain piece on ATF boss threatens whistleblowers? Because he told me this morning at like 10 a.m., yeah, we've got it. It's in the system. The thing is, he put it on the system for you, so just it'll have to be looked at. Like I said earlier, we're going to play that. Let's go ahead and go to Matt in Florida. Matt, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex, how you doing? Hey, if you're a crackpot, I'm a crackpot. I've heard Karl Rove say that on Fox News that Obama needs an OKC bombing to make his popularity go up. So.
Well, you know why Karl Rove can say that? Because we have all these memos and 3 different top advisors writing articles saying they want one and it would sure help them. And again, they sent them out 2 years ago to fundraisers, to their $1 million type donors. Glenn Beck even covered it, saying there's going to be a new Oklahoma City. Don't worry, Obama's going to win, and we're going to blame it on people. I mean, they don't even hide it. I mean, they don't say we're going to do it. They leave that one last piece out. But if I'm like, yeah, don't worry, I'm going to have $1 million next week, and the bank gets robbed down the street, and you're like, where'd you get the $1 million? I don't know.
I flew out of Denver International Airport on Friday afternoon, and I didn't see those Nazis pictures that you're talking about, but I opted out of the body scanner. And there's a 13-year-old girl next to me and a mom, and the TSA guard goes, "Oh, these ain't the same body scanners that give out X-rays." And she had the nerve to say that the cell phones give out more radiations, and then the mom wanted to opt out her child, but the TSA guard still made her go through. I opt out. I got the pat down. And then this creepy old guy, you're right, they are creepy. He asked if there was any sensitive areas of me where I'd be patted down. I go, yeah, my groin. I don't want you to touch my groin. He goes, any more talk like that, I'm going to have to get my supervisor and take you into the back room. And I said, I ain't going in no back room. I said that real loud, but he patted me down. And
No, I'd warned you. The new intimidation, especially with old women, is the rape room. And now they're getting mobile rape rooms. I mean, they're getting armored pillboxes to like, because again, for a dungeon keeper, a bunch of them are pedophiles that's come out. Dragging your child off and freaking them out is enjoyment alone. But yeah, any more talk like that? Again, they touch your groin, but they don't want you talking about what they're about to do. So how did it end? Did he get his pleasures?
Well, he didn't really do nothing. I mean, the pat down was all right. I mean, then he went over to this desk. He said, I'll be right back. And then he goes, all right, you can go through. So I got on my flight. And then another thing with this Colorado bombing, I mean, this ain't related, but last year they had, in Nebraska or Iowa, they had a PhD. I don't know why these guys are doing something stupid, but you can look it up too. As in Iowa, they had he ran over 5 motorcyclists and he killed 2 people in cars, and he was drunk or on drugs, and he was a PhD, and then I mean, I don't know why these guys...
Well, you know the answer, ban cars. Of course, I shouldn't joke. They are talking about making us all be robot-controlled in the future. They're going to roll out the Google cars they now have. They're going to have a better safety record, and they're just going to ban us driving our own cars. Folks, you heard it here first. Just watch. That's about 5-6 years away. They'll first give you insurance discounts if you let the robot take over part of the time. And then finally, they're just going to phase out humans driving altogether because there's going to be so much distracted driving. Thank you for the call. All right, I'm going to go to Jeff and David and El Ray and Ted here in just a moment. But first, I wanted to play this clip. And this is from the Nightly News Friday with Darren McBreen. It's titled, ATF Bots Threatens Whistleblowers. In fact, I'm going to Twitter this out at Real Alex Jones right now, even though it went up this weekend because it's so powerful. And McBreen makes a little joke at the end about the ATF boss because it's like Big Brother. It's a video with him from the head down to his chest, and he's standing there with a blue background, and he's saying, basically, well, the full video's out there because the ATF didn't follow orders and leaked it, that you'll be punished if you whistleblow. You've got to go to the chain of command up to Eric Holder, who's in contempt of Congress and ordered the entire operation for Obama to blame the Second Amendment. And the Chicago Tribune and El Paso Times report, they also ship drugs back in mass by the tons, but the media outside of that never picks it up. So you're supposed to just report to, if a gang member in your neighborhood, let's say, rapes your daughter, you should find the leader of the gang and go to them and tell them about it. I'm sure they'll really care about that a whole lot. Or if a wild dog bites you, if you live out in the country, go find the leader of the pack and dress up, like a sheep or something in the middle of the night and see if they don't attack you. So here he is in everybody's face. And the Senate, sent letters and said, this sounds like a threat. Number one, folks, you're supposed to report on criminal activity to another agency or media. You have a duty to do it. And the fact is they have the NSA overtime spying on government employees to try to make sure you don't report on them. So the answer is everybody start leaking info. The answer is everybody start speaking out. The answer is take action so they can't stop everybody. You understand that? Okay, let's go ahead and go to this report by Darren McBreen and then back to your phone calls.
Choices and consequences. And when I'm talking about choices and consequences, I'm talking about the disciplinary process. What my expectation is, as the acting director, when it comes to the disciplinary process, choices and consequences simply means that as an employee of ATF, should you decide not to abide by the standards of conduct or the rules of the road, should you decide that you're not going to play by the rules, there will be consequences. Choices and consequences mean simply that if you make poor choices, that if you don't abide by the rules, that if you don't respect the chain of command, if you don't find the appropriate way to raise your concerns to your leadership, there will be consequences.
There you go. That's the one without McBreen's commentary, the one that is hilarious that Darren did and about 50 times more powerful. It's up at the Alex Jones channel at YouTube, and I will have that twittered out to everybody. ATF boss threatens whistleblowers. Again, I would have played it. I'm not baiting you to, go to my Twitter to see it. I just asked for that all day. That's not what we got, so too bad. Okay, let's go ahead and talk to Jeff in Oklahoma. Jeff, you're on the air. Welcome.
How you doing, sir? Thanks for taking my call.
I'm doing okay. Go ahead.
I just wanted to run a couple of things by. You already talked about one of them. I turned on the mainstream media to see what kind of lies they were selling us today, and they show the Colorado shooter for his first court appearance, and you can definitely tell that they've got him drugged up on something. I mean, he can barely move. He looks like he's about to go to sleep. All of a sudden, his eyes jolt. He turns, looks all over the place, goes into a trance. They ask him if he has anything to say, and he doesn't even respond.
No, I've interviewed people that were on death row with McVeigh, and from death row, who, without their knowledge, got in on the show. The lawyers, Jesse Trinidad, set it up. And I've talked to others. McVeigh would do this all the time. And Jolly and West was in there every day or every other day. The famous mind control doctor. And then McVeigh could suddenly talk and stuff when they'd roll him out. And then when he wasn't on drugs, he would explain to the other cellmates or people across the cells that, yeah, he was a government mind control subject and was in special ops, and that they set him up and they were going to kill his family if he told the truth. So, I mean, it just goes on and on. And now they wheel him out, as I predicted, and he doesn't, I mean, they said he was flopping around spitting and didn't know who he was. And then now here he is, and there's no discussion of he's insane. You know, now he just goes to a mental institution. No, they're gonna go right ahead with the whole process, because it's just, I mean, look, folks, they could grab me, drug me up, commit a crime, say I did it, put me on Devil's Breath or Halcyon, have me say I did it on the news, just like our troops when the North Vietnamese captured them, saying that they'd been, doing all these things they hadn't done, and then send me to jail. Or they could do it to anybody. And then he's in a Department of Defense funded, advanced, neuro interface program at the university there, and that's where these guys just keep coming from. What do you think?
I think it's pretty strange. I think my eyes are pretty wide open nowadays, because once you find the truth and things, you can see through the lies. It's pretty easy.
Well, I mean, even that, maybe he was a lone crazy who looks totally drugged up in court, and they're not telling us they drugged him up. I mean, that's a whole issue right there. The issue here is if the government's done this over and over again and writes memos saying how great it would be and have been caught doing stuff like this to demonize the Second Amendment, a.k.a. Fast and Furious, you've got to look at them as the #1 suspect. That's all I'm saying here.
Another subject I kind of wanted to touch base on, it's a little different, but it's about the general public. Me and my wife went to a movie theater last week, and they were playing classics, and we went to watch Clockwork Orange, which I'm sure you're probably aware of it. And while we were sitting in there, they have a lot of scenes that are really pretty bad. I mean, trying to commit suicide, sexual assault. And while these things are happening, the people sitting in the theater are giggling and chuckling like it's something cute and funny. And I'm losing.
Wait. You went and saw Clockwork Orange re-aired in a theater and people were liking it?
Yeah, they were chuckling and like giggling when he's trying to commit suicide.
Ooh, that's an idea for us to do, is sneak a camera in sometime when they have a showing at the Paramount or something of Clockwork Orange, because I've been in movies like Natural Born Killers is designed to show you how horrible the media is and how sickening violence is. When I was younger, I didn't get that. And I thought it was like just, that it was pushing senseless violence. It's the opposite. And Oliver Stone, since then, I've actually watched the commentaries. He explains that. But people were giggling and laughing during Rape and Murder during the movie. And so you're saying you went and saw it at a theater that reran it and people were getting off on it?
Yeah. And me and my wife were both looking at each other like, that's not the point you're supposed to get out of this movie. The point is the
movie is about mind control, and it's about the government releasing criminals out of the prison and making them the police to target the nonviolent population in an authoritarian takeover. A Clockwork Orange is a powerful novel that Kubrick made the film out of, and you notice in the film it's writers who and it's that writer who's written A Clockwork Orange. Hence, that's the name of the novel. I appreciate your call. Great points. Okay, I'm going to hit some more news on the other side, then some calls. Then we're going to go back to our guests. But I've got a bunch of news I've got to hit on. Chertoff suggests pre-crime solution to mass shooting. Psychopaths, they want TSA in the theaters. Again, the new symbol of America is a pot-bellied pedophile groping your children. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, we are here live. We also have InfoWars Nightly News that I host, Darren McBreen host, of course, Rob Dew, Paul Watson, Aaron Dykes, and many others. And we are in the process of interviewing quite a few of the finalists for the InfoWars Reporter Contest. And we're going to be hiring some of those folks very soon, so you'll see them here on air and also see their reports here on the radio show. Hear the reports on the radio show. See them for viewers at prisonplanet.tv. Continuing with the news, I haven't even gotten in all the video clips of eyewitnesses saying multiple shooters, tear gas canisters, smoke bombs from different sides. I haven't even gotten into all that yet. I also covered yesterday the history of government-sponsored terror, dozens of examples of our so-called government and other governments staging events to blame it on their political enemies. And if you go to Infowars.com, we do have that video report from last night's radio show posted on the site. But again, Chertoff suggests pre-crime solution to mass shooting psychosis. Eerie coincidence, Colorado University had identical drill on same day as Batman Massacre. Feds admit NSA spying violated Fourth Amendment, but they're not going to stop. First China, then the world. UN uses China as launchpad for one world government, one-child policy, so they want that worldwide. Colorado shooter had more in common with paramilitary police than Batman. Top Pakistani politician calls drone strikes insane, immoral war crimes. Yeah, they'll kill like 20, 30, 40, 100 plus innocent people to get one bad guy. But that's not a tragedy when the whole, apartment building gets blown up with a bunch of little kids in it. But the same government that does that wouldn't stage a theater shooting. They wouldn't stage Fast and Furious either. NBC's Gregory blames Batman Massacre on angry political dialogue, insinuates Rush Limbaugh to blame for shooting. You didn't know it was Rush Limbaugh's fault that guy's clearly out of his mind with a Bozo the Clown hairdo. It's not the Batman franchise's fault. I'm not saying it is, even though it conditions people. Certainly not Rush Limbaugh, but wonder who would blame that on Rush Limbaugh. Again, I said they do something like this and blame us for it, and they're doing it. And they write memos saying how great it would be to have this, but you know what? They're not suspects. Sure, they got the UN treaty next week and everything, but they're not suspects. No, we are. Rush Limbaugh. It's his fault, folks. Don't look at Obama or Attorney General Holder. Do not look at them. I don't mean just encouraging the guy. No, I mean, setting him up. They'd never do that. Even small-town police departments get caught all the time framing people for murders they've committed. But the big feds, they wouldn't do anything like that. So everything is just fine, ladies and gentlemen. NBC's Gregory blames Batman Massacre on angry political dialogue. Remind me, guys, when the guests join us to play that clip, queuing it up to where they blame Rush Limbaugh. Because that's one of the most important points here is Friday, Paul Watson wrote an article in the early morning saying they'd blame the Second Amendment and that they would blame talk radio. We were hoping it wouldn't be us when they roll out his computers. But they haven't done that yet. No, they're just blaming Rush Limbaugh. All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Well, it's not only CNN pushing taking our guns or Felipe Calderon of Mexico. Rupert Murdoch, he has tweeted in support for taking our guns. Now we know why Fox will never defend our Second Amendment. There you go. Rupert Murdoch, we had to do something about gun control. Police licenses okay for hunting, rifle, and pistol for anyone without criminal or psych record. No more. There you go. They already have all that. So there's Rupert Murdoch wants our guns. Thank you, Rupert Murdoch. And the Huffington Post is very proud of you. George Soros is very, very proud of you right now. During the last break, guess who ran in here breathing heavy? Aaron Dykes has just discovered, the guy that put out the Democratic memo about how great a new Oklahoma would be, talking about how great mass shootings are to get our guns. He was breathing heavily. He's going to have that on the Nightly News tonight. He's going to be hosting it, but I'm going to do a special report. I get so excited the first few hours I can hardly even talk sometimes. I'm going to try to condense like a laser beam, shoot a special report tonight that'll be on the news with Aaron, just going over all these points. Wow, this makes my head spin right now, but Aaron just found some bombshell info. He'll get it to Watson. He's got an article coming out very, very soon. Right now, let's go to El Ray in Texas. El Ray, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me. I just called to ask if you'd ever heard of the Project on National Security Reform.
Yes, I have. Isn't that a Council on Foreign Relations thing?
Yes, sir. I'd never heard it mentioned before, and I wanted you to know it's CIA, CFR, RAND Corporation, Bank of America, IBM.
No. Basically, it's everything they've already done. The next phase, total police state, checkpoints everywhere, everything you do being surveilled, no jobs except being in prison, running a prison, or working for a defense contractor, forced inoculations, hell on earth, weather modification, just a nightmare system.
Pretty much. I just wanted to know if you had heard of it, and they're working with state and local governments and law firms and American Bar Association, and that was all.
No, it's the total takeover of every facet of life. The threat fusion centers, everything. Yes, we've actually covered that before, but I'm glad you raised it.
Awesome. I'd only seen it in the Washington Post, and then I just had one other thing I wanted to ask about, and that's the Economic Club of New York.
Yes, I've heard of that. That's another elitist kind of a private CFR meets Federal Reserve organizing house.
Yeah, on the site, they proudly thank Rockefeller Centennial Society for running the program. And the last thing that kind of ties it all together, actually, work at an elementary school, and I see a lot there, but is the, quote, whole of government approach that they're pushing. And I just wanted to mention that. And the Project on National Security Reform's website's pnsr.org. And thanks for having me on.
Thank you. All I know is we need guns because of crazy people like the bozo killer, who is more like the bozo Patsy. And as days go by, just it's all coming together. Aaron just ran in here. You know that guy who wrote the memo to the Democrat fundraisers talking about staged events or Oklahoma City helping us? I found his quotes on things, how they're going to get our guns with mass shootings and how that'll help Obama reconnect with the public. I mean, I'm glad he was, because that's how you're supposed to act when you find stuff like that, is, because that's what I do around here is, I'm glad that people are concerned about stuff like this. You're supposed to get upset about it because it's all there. They all think you're idiots. The only reason they get away with all this is because the average person is unconscious and just wants to go home and watch television. Folks, that ain't living. That is not living, okay? We are analyzing these psych warfare social engineers, and we're on their tail. All right, coming up in this hour, we're going to play some clips of people talking about multiple shooters, smoke bombs or tear gas coming from different sides, someone else letting the shooter in. Now we've seen who the media is saying is the shooter. With Bozo the clown hair, everybody said that was men with black masks on who looked like police officers. That's what the eyewitnesses all over local news said. But now he comes into court today not knowing who he is, with all these facial tics, eyes wide open, clearly bombed out of his brain. And I hope someday they don't commit a mass shooting and then just roll me out and I suddenly can't talk. And nobody asked, is he drugged? Nobody asked, hey, maybe somebody else did it. Maybe he's mentally ill. I mean, I could go commit a crime, get a homeless person who's mentally ill in the car with me. They're all over Austin, where I live, thrown out of mental institutions. And then put a bunch of weapons in the car, commit a crime, and then let the homeless person take the blame. And that's what Operation Northwoods, right here in my hot little hand from the National Security Archive. This is at the Library of Congress. You can just look up PDF of National Security Archive. And it talks about how to commit mass shootings and then how to even frame patsies. And who do they recommend in the Gladio documents? This just talks about framing patsies. Mentally ill people, people with criminal records, you just frame. And now we got a guy who can't talk. The police said he was flopping around the last 2 days, screaming and spitting at everyone, screaming, I'm the Joker, I'm the Joker. Now he can't talk and is smiling and laughing and then obviously snapping in and out of things. And, of course, he's on a bunch of psychotropic drugs, which can make you do this on your own. Just like Sergeant Bales, who went over there and killed 19 people in Afghanistan. And they're going to try to put him on trial. He's not mentally ill. He's going to go to the electric chair, I guess. Now, here's the deal. We are collating all these clips right now the admissions, even Glenn Beck covering it a year and a half ago, that top White House advisors in memos and in restricted memos only to top donors, like when Obama's privately with a bunch of donors that give him $1 million or whatever, billionaires and people, he says, yeah, don't worry, we're going to get these bitter clingers that cling to their Bibles and guns. We're going to get them. Well, to their people, and Paul Watson's doing an article on this right now because it hit me this morning, they said a new Oklahoma City, a new 9/11 or some big event will let Obama reconnect with the public and be seen as a hero. By the way, you watch, the polls aren't up yet, but he went to Colorado yesterday and today. I'm guaranteeing, you'll see tomorrow, they'll be out by tomorrow, maybe even tonight. I predict 10.5 bounce in an index of polls. Some will be higher. I predict a 10-point bounce for Obama. Watch. Now, in his office, Aaron Dykes is in there. He's found clips of the Democratic operatives bragging on Chris Matthews after the Gifford shooting that this is going to help Obama reconnect and this is going to help shut up the birthers. Now, remember, you got Robert Shapiro on the Financial Times of London saying, we need a new Oklahoma City or 9/11. If he doesn't get that, he's not going to win. They come 1 inch from saying they'll stage one. They just say, man, this would sure be nice. That's why last night I thought, and this morning it really hit me even stronger, we had to get the makers of A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City, 1995, on the show because this is the only modern film exposing the false flag. And just like Fast and Furious, they've admitted Fast and Furious was done to blame the Second Amendment. CBS, ABC, I've read those headlines there on air. You can look it up. But other than that, this is the most proven false flag where we've got the cops, the eyewitnesses, the people that worked in the building. I mean, we know who did it. We know how they did it. The film is so important. And guess what? It's the very same crew now running Obama. So that's why I'm saying we've got to look at this from the perspective of who's the number one suspect. If somebody who looks like they're 65 years old with a long gray beard and blue eyes robs a bank, the police know to see are there any bank robbers paroled that fit this description, because they normally have priors. And they go, you bet. John Doe got released 2 months ago. This is his MO. He looks just like it. They try to go find where he is. They discover where he's at. They get a search warrant. They bust in. They find the money right there. You go after people who do this over and over again. And let me tell you who does it over and over again. I covered this for 2 hours on the Sunday radio show. These people do. Okay? And not just our government. Other governments do this over and over again. Operation Gladio included not just blowing up bus stations and school buses and train stations. This has been declassified by the Italian government and others. They would shoot up movie theaters and blame it on their political enemy and even grab a communist or somebody they didn't like and drug them up, put them on trial, put them in prison or kill them. So, again, I've seen this over and over again. I thought I'd get 2 gentlemen on because specifically they've been warning on my show and their own radio show and everywhere, look for this. And I remember, and so this is homework for them because I know they're busy, but I'm even more busy. They've been on probably 6, 7 times the last 6 months since their film came out. Well, where we said, get the film, they're going to stage new terror attacks to get the UN treaty passed, the rest of it to put TSA on the streets. And we all talked about what type of attack. And we all said, highways, police stations, federal centers that have daycare centers because they like to kill kids, that gets more effect, movie theaters, shopping malls. I'm so busy, I don't have time to go back to 6, 7, 8 interviews and find all the places we said that, but we did. So that's powerful to get people's attention. We're not just saying this now. We said this before. Now, I'm going to go to Chris Emery and Holland Vandennieuwenhof. They join us. Vandennieuwenhof is a native of Oklahoma, formerly served U.S. Marine Corps as a rifle squad leader. His broadcasting career started in 2007 as co-host of Radio Free Oklahoma and later as co-host of the Free Mind Report, heard on a bunch of stations. Holland is also a writer and producer of A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City 95, and the first full-length documentary examining the Oklahoma City bombing in the light of the new and suppressed evidence that proves the official story is a myth. Available at InfoWarsShop.com, I should add. I said, get the film out, it'll save lives. It may stop them from staging new attacks, or it'll have people informed who will be watching when it happens, like our witnesses that were on the flight that saw the government get Mutalib on the plane, the underwear bomber. Chris Emery is producer of Noble Lie as well, and has been working for decades to expose the globalist. And they join us right now. It's the winner of a bunch of film festivals. And the Vegas Indie finalist, just a whole winner, a Bare Bones Festival, also official selection San Antonio Film Festival, and a bunch of others. They join us right now. Out of the gates, I want to go to Holland first. Holland, I haven't even asked your opinion. I had Chris call you 8 o'clock last night, got you set up for the show. I don't know your view on this. I haven't heard what you've said about it. So I want to hear fresh. Give me your take on what you think's going on here.
Well, thank you, Alex, for having us on again. And when this event happened, this horrible event, I reserved judgment. I don't like to leap to judgment, but I must report that all indications that are at the very least, that many things are very fishy about this incident, and I do think that most likely it was a false flag attack. The timing could not be better for those trying to push a gun control agenda. They're trying to sign a major gun control treaty next week. There are so many correlations between this attack and the Tucson shooting of last year, the Jared Lee Loughner case, and I have been actually looking into that case a lot lately. Some of the work of Stephanie Sledge at the governmentrag.com. She's done some excellent work, and I do think that this probably is a false flag attack.
Well, I even forgot that. We've got to get Wayne Madsen on immediately. Wayne Madsen told me first about stuff that later came out, and of course he's former with the National Security Agency. He talked to a high-level federal informant that said that Rolls and Giffords, who were both pro-gun, were working on exposing Fast and Furious, and that definitely the shooter there was programmed Jared Loughner.
Oh, yes. Loughner bore all the hallmarks of an MK Ultra patsy, and that's what we're looking at these days, is this evolution of the methodology for executing these crimes and getting patsies involved in mind control, the use of psychotropic drugs, erasing memories, inducing psychotic behavior, especially with the case of this latest suspect named Holmes. Apparently, there is no creepy backstory to this guy, unlike Loughner. There were a lot of people who came out to say that he was a really creepy, scary guy. It turns out later that a lot of those sound bites were probably faked anyway. But with this kid, there seems to be no creepy backstory. Just out of the blue, he flips out and decides to become the Joker and kill at least a dozen people. And also he was serving under a National Institute of Health grant and a neuroscience division of the university, and the NIH has been long implicated firsthand.
Oh yeah, they use these programs under
experiments.
They use these under Ewing Cameron to actually kidnap test subjects and use them for mind control. He's right in the middle of a Department of Defense funded program in mind control sciences.
Yes, and we're already seeing, like you've reported, the divergent eyewitness accounts. Now, when I look at the primary purpose of A Noble Lie, and the real reason we wanted to get it out, was not just to expose the Oklahoma City bombing. Obviously, that was the primary reason, but the deeper reason was that if an attack like this happened again, a false flag attack, people who had seen the movie, seen the evidence, seen what this government is capable of doing, what it has done in the past and what it is talking about doing in the future. If an attack like that happens again, be able to recognize
yes, sir. Stay there.
telltale signs of an attack.
Did you know that the global elite are now storing...
All right, I want to get Chris Emery in here, but Holland, continue with the points you're making after the last 6-7 years. I know Chris Emery even more immersed in studying false flags and how they work. It's hard for people that don't spend all their time studying this, like I've been doing for 17 years, to just hear us say, oh, yeah, it's got the earmarks. Folks, when we say it's got the earmarks, it's got the earmarks. I wish this guy was a lone nut, but now he's clearly drugged out of his mind on television, and they're just going to tell us open and shut case. We'd be crazy to believe a government that's been caught running so many other false flags.
Exactly. I mean, this is not the world I want to live in. I'd much rather be doing other things with my time, but I'm not going to deny reality. And the fact is that this government has time and time again, as many governments around the world, engaged in the false flag methodology that has cost innocent lives in order to enact a political agenda. This is a basic 101 politics, geopolitics 101. We've seen it time and time again. You referenced Operation Northwoods earlier. Well, they actually talked about shooting American citizens on the streets of America to provoke a war with Cuba. That was from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That was approved by the Secretary of Defense. That was approved by the political structure of the day up until JFK shot it down. So it's not unheard of at all, and they've done it before. Operation Gladio, you were referencing. The Italian Senate actually indicted the CIA for its role in the Bologna bus station bombing that cost 89 lives. Those were innocent people in order to enact a strategy of tension, to keep people scared, keep them on edge, and make them vote for the politically convenient party, convenient to the interests of the CIA.
And now we have 3 memos.
And in this case, and like I said before, is that we made a noble lie so we could wake people up to the fact of what this government was capable of and what they would do in the future. And we referenced a Clinton cabinet official, Robert Shapiro, who was in the government during the Oklahoma City bombing, who later opined in an editorial that Obama needed another Oklahoma City or 9/11. Now, this guy just wasn't an observer, perhaps making a callous remark. He was in the government when the bombing happened. He saw exactly how they benefited, and he was saying the Obama administration needed another mass murder to justify election and a political agenda.
And he actually said that quote, and that's what's frustrating. We then have all these other fundraising memos where they said, don't worry, a new Oklahoma City or 9/11, and they're going to get the blame. I mean, that right there, they are so arrogant, and then this magically happens right as they, in the last 6 months, have been delivering the TSA kits for checkpoints all over the highway. We've talked to high-level Department of Transportation whistleblowers that say they're getting ready in the next few months to roll this out, and then right on time this starts. If we start seeing more of these, then we know it's a setup.
And Fast and Furious. One of the, I guess you could say, good benefits of Fast and Furious was that it was unlikely that Obama was going to be able to get gun control legislation passed because of the blowback from Fast and Furious. It was simply ridiculous that the federal government is asking for restrictions on our gun use when the biggest gun runner in the past decade is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms under Operation Gunwalker, Fast and Furious.
And they did it to blame the Second Amendment.
Now that's all blown out of the water.
And they did it to blame the Second Amendment. CBS News broke that almost a year ago. Let's go to Chris Emery. We're about to go to break, but Chris, what's your first look on this, having 3 or 4 days to look at it?
First of all, I want to extend my condolences to the victims' family members and survivors. That's one thing that we did immediately when we studied the Oklahoma City case. People that lost their lives, a very sacred loss. Second thing is, I'm going to suggest to every single one of these family members, hire an attorney, get a completely independent view of what's going on here, because I can guarantee you that you're being lied to. I say that as a filmmaker that looks at the facts. Holland can back me up on this. There are so many cases we reviewed, and this is consistent, and you did an excellent job on Friday and over the weekend reviewing all of these cases that are similar. You cannot believe the federal government anymore. Simple as that. The top dogs that are taking control of this case are going to lie, flat out, bald-faced lie to the family members and have no compunction about doing it. So they have to hire independent forensic experts and independent counsel to make sure that they get the truth on what happened to their loved ones. That's the bottom line. And it's frustrating because we see this happen time and time again, and we've got to get the truth out on this.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, it would be a lot less scary to think he was just a lone Ronald McDonald killer. I forget calling him the Joker, but they're already saying he's the guy, and he can't even talk. He's obviously bombed out of his brain. We knew. We'll talk about Jolly and West and mind control when we get back. That's my first question, but I want you to be able to finish, Chris Emery, with all the points I know you've got there you want to go over. Because, again, these are guys who have investigated in depth with the primary survivors and witnesses the false flag that was Oklahoma City. And I'm telling you, the prime suspects of this new event are the people that did this, okay? That's why these guys are important.
We're on the march.
Ladies and gentlemen, it came out in the congressional hearings in 94, 95.